Wait, everybody sure likes to get here early. This is like scope creep. It's supposed to start at 3 and then 10-2 and then quarter-2 and 22 and
If you're not early, you're late.
This is true. I concur. Yeah, man, everybody's jumping on. This is cool. Is that sound in the background annoying? Is my mic picking it up? No, it's good. All right.
Hey, Brad, why don't you turn a light on or two?
Problem is, I got too much backlight.
Same with you, Dwayne. All I can see is your fuzzy cheeks. What am I, the hall monitor?
They are fuzzy right now, that's why.
Well, I can just make out your lips. Who's going to this wing ding in Vegas?
I'm hoping to get some clarification this week. The general manager's been out sick. He's been in the hospital. So apparently general manager is how to be around to make decisions or something like that. So he was back last week, and our contact there, Dakota, was plowing through a backlog of work with him. So hopefully we'll get some answers.
We got on time.
Yeah, I sent you an email about 2 minutes ago that you haven't responded to yet, Bob. So kind of disappointed here, but
I saw it, but then I'm like, I'll bet she's gonna be at the meeting, and I bet you other people are gonna ask. So save my fingers.
Hey, Bob, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Oh, hey, I've got some show and tell when after the meeting. So if you're interested,
Yeah, of course.
I've got a couple pictures that submarine that I built back in 1957.
Holy heck.
So let me show you a picture of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right,
Oh wait, are you gonna share it on your screen?
let's see. What's that?
Are you gonna share it on your screen, or are you gonna hold it up to the camera?
Okay, hold on. Let's see here.
Oh, we are.
Can you see it?
Yes.
It's a fleet sub.
It looks like one, yeah.
Yeah, it's all balsa wood.
So this is in the 50s. So like the idea for like that picture is in a lake.
It's at the reflecting pool in Washington, D.C.
So did you like throw some like electric motors in it and push it around, or how did this work?
Yeah, I had two Pitman motors, but the RC was the old escapement with the rubber bands.
Yeah.
And it didn't work very well. So this is unpainted. It's been protected. You know, I would use a butyrate and whatever, but it was just kind of a project that that we had a engineering class in high school. And we had to take and design something and scale it off of a model or whatever, but scale it up. So this was almost 6 foot. And it took me about 6 months to put it together.
Well, I hope you got an A on that project. That looks pretty darn awesome to me.
Also
Yeah,
good in airplane dope. Wow, old school.
So this is my dad. This is 1959. And that's my dad holding the sub.
Wow.
And that's painted there. So it was it was a great project. It was super good. I got an A+ in it. So
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So-
compared to what most high school kids put together, that was pretty astounding.
yeah, it was fun. So I had to, back then we didn't have the stuff we have now, of course, but okay, who knows
Right.
what this is?
Yeah.
Dave, do you know what that is?
What a screaming pile of shit. Who built that?
Well, wait a minute now. This has been to Groton twice, Kings Bay, Georgia once, and San Francisco twice.
Thank you.
So it's an old version, and it's out. I've got to work on it. It's not functional right now.
The plastic looks great, though. Usually it gets a little cloudy.
Yeah.
All right, so someone's got to mute. We got feedback going on.
What's that?
I said somebody needed to mute their mic because we had some feedback going on there for a second.
Oh, okay. So anyway,
But those old D&E cylinders, like I still have them come across my bench from time to time. We're talking like what, 20, probably some of them going on 30 years, right?
oh yeah. I think I did Kings Bay, Georgia in 97.
Might be
I think
Dwayne.
George, you might have like 2 mics going on, or
Yeah,
two
what's that
speakers
noise?
or something. It's feedback from speakers. It usually happens when you have like 2 mics or 2 sets of speakers going.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
Think it was
Anyway.
Dwayne and he's done it. He just muted.
Oh, okay. All right, there you go.
So.
All right, we're good now. We're good now.
Is anyone going to Groton next year or this year?
I know there's a bunch. Yeah. I think Frank's not here yet. He has a couple projects he's hoping to get done in time for that.
Yeah, Jake and I'll be going.
Oh, okay, good.
Hey, George,
Well,
George, if you got a busted cylinder, bring it. I know a guy can fix it up for you.
I'm interested.
Yeah, I also
The
got one
good
of
thing about
those.
those old cylinders, though, like they repair really easily.
Yeah, I got one of those old ones too.
Yeah, it's old technology, but it's Dave, do you know who built this thing?
Me and Ellie.
Oh, you built it?
Yeah, that's a D&E 3.5 by the looks of it.
Oh, okay. So I can send it to you and you can
Bring it with you to Groton. Save yourself. Believe me, Bob can tell you. You send stuff in the mail, you're asking for it.
yeah.
Bring it.
I bought me a golf cart case to carry my sub in many years ago, and I lined it with foam, and it worked out really well. You have to take everything apart, take the con off. My biggest problem the last time that I took it through the airport, TSA they ran it through the machine. They thought it was a freaking missile. So I had to take it all apart, and people were waiting in line, to do whatever, but it was a mess. But anyway, I'm shut up for now. You're
Well,
my hero,
thanks
Dave.
thanks for
Dave.
sharing that project. That's awesome. I
Yeah,
would love to put those, if there's any way to get those pictures scanned, I would love to put those up on the forums.
I will. I'll get my wife to help me with that.
Yeah, send them to me. I'll put it up on like on Facebook and the forums and stuff. Like
Yeah.
everybody's seen the U-boats that people are building now, but none from like the 1950s. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a great project. It was, you know, I had to, just took time and it took a lot of patience. All right. Dave, you're my
Very good.
hero.
So I got a question for people who are perhaps more technically inclined than I am when it comes to brushless motors. If you've been watching my videos, I'm on the struggle bus with that little Typhoon. The motors, what's happening? They're sensorless brushless motors, and they're the same ESCs I've been using for years and years and years. But for whatever reason, when I hook these things up, usually one out of the two will spin nicely. The other one will like glitch and stutter, and then it'll eventually start working. Both of them and both ESCs are heating up like crazy, like hot.
Well, they have to be on separate ESCs.
Correct? Yep, they are.
And they're coming off the same power bus, right?
Correct.
Have you tried
Yeah.
operating separately and checking for heat?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So I thought it was like a problem with the ESCs, and then I thought it was a problem like with motors, like, you know, all of this stuff is cheap Chinese stuff. So you know, you get a bad batch of motors or something like that. But what's happening is like when I run them individually, they seem to work fine, but when then I hook them up like together on the same bus, they don't seem to be. So
How close are the motors together?
they're right next to each other.
All right, you might be swapping some fields between the two stators.
Well, that's an interesting thought. I never really thought of that.
Take the motors out of the model, separate them by several inches, and see if you've got the same thing going on. If not, then if you've got some whatever the frequency of the ESRs are, you got some EMF going between the two. But just do that simple test. Take them out, separate them, see if you get the same phenomena.
When I tested them separately, one at a time, they work perfectly.
That's separately. I'm talking about interactions of the EM fields between the
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They work perfectly separated, and when we put them together, they don't.
Well, test it and find out.
So I think what he's saying is if you have them both
Yep.
running and they're goofing up,
Yes. Correct.
just want to keep moving it away and see if you get this far away and suddenly it works really well. In which case it's the EMF between the two motors.
Okay, so yes, that could be, but the way I have this set up, I've got them on separate channels
That's fine.
on the radio, so I can run one and the other, and they still act up.
Oh,
Bob,
they're-
you're
okay.
answering your own question. Dave just said it. Both motors are in the model side by side, correct?
Right, but what I just finished,
The electromagnetic fields are possibly interfering with each other.
but what I just said though is when I run only one motor, it still does it
In the model.
in the model.
And
Did
the
you put a shield
drive,
between the two of them?
Sorry, what's
the
that? Sorry?
drive,
Did you put like some kind of shield between the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. Like, what sort of material would provide EMF shielding that is in plate form?
A fair,
Like grounded mesh or mu metal, MU.
But before that, what kind of electronic speed controls do you have?
They're the little cheap 12 amp Chinese.
Are they
you know,
Bell Heli?
No.
So there's no way that you can adjust the parameters in the speed control.
No.
It's not your phasing. That's not the answer. I saw
I've
you-
switched it around, and from the research that I was doing, sensor less, brush less motors. It doesn't really matter the how you hook the wires up. It's you know, it just controls rotation. So
controls rotation only. Switch
Yeah.
to you go in reverse,
right.
but it's not phasing.
I'll play with it a little bit more. I am kind of curious now if I remove them, separate them, if they would start behaving again. If not, then what the heck are you going to do? It's like a little stupid baby, tiny, dumb model like you crazy people like to build. So it's like, it's not like I can move them further apart.
Move,
No.
move one
Can I
rear.
ask one final question?
Ah,
When they're in the model, are they going through the shaft seals?
they were, but for this last batch of testing, they're not
In the model?
in the model.
Okay.
So they were and
the
they weren't,
shaft
and they're behaving the same.
resistance on either shaft, mechanical resistance on either shaft seal is not affecting it, correct?
Right. No. I pulled the shafts. They're just running free and open right now. And actually, I pulled the whole motor bulkhead out, so they're literally in the air right now.
And I will say one thing on the Crick, which I've been running reliably over a year and a half. I have these, but I'm using the heli speed controllers to be like he mentioned, and I have no issues, and they are maybe a 30-second apart.
Yeah, I might need to swap to. I might just for the sake of experimentation try swapping to different electronic speed controllers. Yeah, I see, Brad. The challenge is I've got a box this big to put pump, receiver, 4 electronic speed controllers, 2 brushless motors, an electronic on-off switch,
Servos.
and 3 servos.
Yeah, I have to believe there's so many boats out there, and Ed makes a great point where there are 2 brushless motors side by side, and it's not happened before. So it's something unique to that arrangement or to that component selection. And maybe you need to try a different brand motor or a different brand speed control. I
That's what I'm
don't
thinking.
believe
Either
proximity
the
is the
speed
problem.
controller. Yeah. I think for whatever reason, this specific ESC and this specific motor, they're not talking nice together. And I could see, glitching and stuff like that, but like both of them are heating up. Not only the motors, but the electronic speed controllers are hot, hot.
Yeah, that definitely sounds electronic. And if you've changed and substituted like for like parts and it remains, then there's some incompatible design things. Maybe one's Japanese and one's Chinese and they're ancestral enemies or something like that. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. I might need to swap. It's too bad because these little 12 amp brushless ESCs are nice. They're like, nice and tiny and all right.
I bet you wouldn't have this problem if they were the old school censored motors, because the new ones, which is the entire field now, which don't use sensors, they use that back EMF coming up the line to the speed controller to tell it the relative position of rotor to armature. If it is a cheap ESC, it might be foxing itself and getting a bit out of phase with the position the rotor is supposed to be in.
That is exactly what it's actually. You know what? Let me check something here.
Hey Bob, do you hear anything unusual? Because brushless motors, you can ring the bell on them, and do they sound funny?
Screaming. They're screaming. The one sounds fine and operates perfectly. The other one is kind of like glitchy and stuff. And then if I massage the stick, it'll kick on and it'll run nice and smooth. And then it runs perfectly the other direction. So it's always the one direction that it's like glitchy in.
One last stupid question, maybe I missed it. Did you swap, of course you swapped the speed controllers? between the two motors.
Yeah, I did. Well, and I completely replaced both motors with two brand new motors.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you exhibit the behavior on one and then swap to see immediately if it's behaving the same on the other motor.
Here, take a look, and I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to share this out.
Does the problem follow the speed controller?
Gotcha. Yeah, here.
Hey, Bob, why brushless?
Why brushless? Because the brushless motors are half the size of a brushed motor. Space is a consideration. All right, here, this is literally it. I made a short video. I don't know if you can hear audio on this or not. I can't hear anything.
Notice you've got the ESC stacked on one atop the other.
Yeah, just sitting loose there. Yeah.
Change the proximity next time you're in the shop, see what happens.
Well, in the model, they're spaced about 3 inches apart.
Well, that's, yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, did the audio come through on that?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, and you didn't hear the fancy screaming that was going on.
But I could see by the frame rate that there was different RPMs there.
Yeah. And it was probably choppy when you saw it there too. But at any rate, it looks like I'll mess around with swapping out the speed controllers for something different and see what happens. But
And if that doesn't get it, distance the motors.
Yeah.
As a test. You know, at least know what's going on, even though physically you're constrained in that model, you'll learn something.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it'd be good to share it with everybody in case that happens to somebody else.
Indeed.
All right. So, we already had a share from George, who for those of you who are showing up late, relayed a model that he built in high school from the 1950s of a fleet boat. Was that like a Legato, like a U.S. fleet boat? It was hard to tell from the pictures, but at any rate, it was super cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute. You want me to show them again?
Yeah, put them up again.
Yeah, sure.
Do it now.
Yeah, that looks like a Gato to me, right? Yeah, balsa and dope, I think, was the construction methodology back then.
Frame, I bet.
Yeah, and it was powered electric motors.
George, I bet you were big into free flight, right?
You're muted, by the way, George. I'm sure he's telling us something incredibly interesting. Well, you're muted. You're muted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Check out the freeboard on that sucker. It's like the sea view.
Okay, there you go. And here's okay, this is my dad. This is then 2 years later, 1959, and holding the model that's I don't know, can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. That's painted there. I painted it the year before, but so it didn't submerge or anything. I had lead that I used in the little cans that you know for film cans. So I melted lead and wheel weights and balanced it that way. But anyway, it was quite the show. Back then, people had sailboats, and it was they had sailboat regattas every Sunday. So when I put this submarine in the water, the park police that were they rode horses back then. They still do it, I guess, today. But the park police would go, what are you going to do with that? And I said, well, I'm just going to see if the motors run and just kind of float it around. He said, okay, well, you got some high class people out here with sailboats, and so we got to be careful, and blah, blah, blah. So, and back then, the water was, the wrecking pool was clear. I was there in April of this year, and I would dare not put my foot in it.
George,
yeah,
those high class people are our employees. George, one more thing. I bet you were in the free flight models.
I built my own. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're a scratch builder. You're a real model builder.
Yeah.
Have my baby.
Matter of fact, I go to, I've got a lot that you can buy all the kits and everything, but some of the models that I've built with, 50-inch wingspans or whatever, I take them to Maui, and on the 4,000-foot level there's a regular model club that flies gliders. And when I show up and I've got one where I just throw it out and catch thermals, and they've got electric motors on theirs that take them up, it's kind of fun. So anyway, it's just different. I'm the old school. So I'm 85 now, so I'm kicking.
Also, all still here.
Yeah, I'm still here, still kicking.
Good.
Anyway, the great group of people.
Yeah,
hey,
thank you
George,
for sharing. That was awesome.
George, what happened to the model?
Oh, well, I was prepping for West Point, and it left the house and whatever. But my dad had people that he worked with, and he had some folks that wanted to buy it, and he called me up and said, so what do you want to sell this for? Do you want to sell it? And I said, no, I'm gonna give it to you. You keep it. So anyway, he ended up having some people pressurized him to get rid of it. I think he sold it for $25.
Oh my God.
But I wished I had that now. It's just I mean, it's fiberglass and all the new technology. That would have been cool. But
yeah.
You hear that?
And
you hear that? George said fiberglass is new technology. George, you are old. You are so old.
I know. Hey, I'm older than you. I'm older than anyone in this group, probably. Love you guys. Okay.
Thanks for sharing, George.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
You guys are a great group of people. I really admire you. And I'm hoping I can make more of these regattas, but if nothing else, I'll be trying to get to Las Vegas if that one works out.
Well,
we're doing our dangest.
Make it one.
So if I come, Dave, I probably won't bring a boat, but I'll bum off you.
Oh, you get all the stick time for me you want.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And I meant that in a nice way.
Okay, I know you did. All right.
We're gonna move on because this was gonna turn into a discussion about fail-safes and submarine recovery, prompted by the loss of USS Texas. Yeah. So for those of you who haven't been following along, 2 weeks ago to the day, the USS Texas went down in Sylvan Rodriguez Pond here in Texas. If you watch the video, I have a very regimented way of going about testing submarines, and something just happens. It would have had to have been some technical issue. I don't think it was user error, but the sub went down and didn't come back up. Is the long and short of it. So to reflect upon this, and from a best practices perspective, Mr. Sub Ed was with me, and immediately we took 2 bearings to where it went down. We were ashore, and so when your sub goes down, sight along where it went down, find an object on the other side, and mark that mentally. So now you've got a line, a bearing to where it went down. If you don't have a second person, there's no way to reliably determine distance, but you will know bearing. There were 2 of us, and so we could get a rough idea of bearing from that. Nicholas was actually there. And so with a cross, you can determine where exactly you lost sight of it. Now, when you're talking about submarines, it doesn't mean a lot, but it means a little, because submarines can do a lot of things when you can't see them underneath the water. In this particular case, the Texas was headed completely straight. It wasn't in a turn or anything. It was in a nice, even, steady submergence. It was diving at the time, and we just lost sight of it, and it didn't come back up again. From a failsafe functionality, the receiver had built-in failsafe. Probably within 5 seconds, I lost telemetry, which basically means the failsafe immediately kicks in aboard the submarine. The new radios allow you to set parameters for all of the functions that it controls. And so in this particular case, it is throttle to 0, rudder midships, bow planes full rise, stern planes full rise, blow ballast. That's the 5 things that happen in this particular case. This boat, if you follow the build, doesn't have full static diving capabilities. It's a like quasi-dynamic diver. It was ballasted positively. So if it just went under and lost signal, eventually, even if it stopped, it should have floated back up. And so it fouled on something. It was only really in the water for, I don't know, Ed, maybe like 5 minutes, something like that. And it was sitting at perfect trim. When we dove it next to the pier, it was at perfect submerged trim, so it hadn't taken on water or anything. It wasn't negatively buoyant at that point. We only managed a half turn of our half lap before it went down. So long story short, it went down and did not come back up again. Fortunately, there was a local dive club, and I reached out to them immediately, and probably within 2 hours, I think, we had a diver on site to come out there and take a look for things. Water situation, chocolate milk is a good way of describing it. None of us knew what it was like underneath the water. I will tell you at this point, I am intimately familiar with the submerged terrain and topography of that pond now. Very intimately familiar. But back then we didn't know. Realistically, it ranges in depth from 18 inches at the shore to, it was at the time 10 feet of depth throughout the remainder of the pond. It's kind of a man-made pond. It's very, very even terrain. It's not up and down and left and right, but it's weedy as snot. Weeds range from a foot to 4 feet tall underneath there. And so, yeah, lots of things. And people love fishing there. And so there is fishing line everywhere, crisscrossing and left and right. And there's also a fountain in the middle that has ropes holding it that float on the surface. So those are fun to play around with as well. I've been out there 5 times. Last time was this morning. And we basically graduated from swimming out and diving with masks to getting the diver out there to going with a kayak and looking for it. I don't know what we were thinking when that happened, but to the final iteration of the search today, which it was our mobile command facility, the rescue barge, which consisted of a Garmin high-resolution multi-transducer fish finder that operated in 3 different sonar frequencies. And then we actually also had an ROV that we had sent down to look for it as well. And then there were different iterations of the actual search methodology. So today, the final search methodology for Logan and I, we went out to where we saw the submarine go down, staked a 12-foot long stake down into the bottom of the pond, tethered ourselves in the raft, and we began doing spirals. Now, the fish finder, based on our research, had 3 different, I told you, functions or emitters, transducers. There's side scan, which is useless. It's going sideways. We don't need to know what's beside us. We need to know what's under us. But then there's the traditional, which goes down at an angle of about 25 degrees. And so based on my math, which was confirmed by ChatGPT, at 9 or 10 feet of depth, we were only scanning about 3 feet directly underneath us. The clear view transducer at that 9 or 10 feet of depth actually was cutting an 8-foot swath, which made me feel a lot better about life. It uses a lot of sophisticated algorithms to help differentiate between weeds and terrain. If you watch the videos, it's actually pretty incredible. It's like you're down there and you can actually see the weeds, passing as you're going there. So our methodology, we staked it and we began spiraling. We did a lap. I moved out probably 2.5 feet, 30 inches, did another lap, 30 inches, did a lap, 30 inches, did a lap, until we had moved about 50 feet radius from the center of the stake. And so that's a lot of area. If you're talking about a 100-foot diameter circle being taken in 2.5-foot swaths, I feel very confident we didn't miss anything. It took us 3 hours today to do that search, and we were not fortunate enough to have located the boat with 2 different staked scenarios. So one of 2 things. The boat went somewhere completely unexpected. It must have submerged, leveled out, drove for 100 meters and rested somewhere. Or we didn't find it the first night. It popped to the surface and somebody found it the next morning and walked away with it. That's perfectly feasible, depending. Or the equipment that we have is just not finding it. It's just not pinging it. It's not seeing it. That's where we're at. So that is the story of the Texas. At this particular point, just before David chimes in, I am pulling the plug on my personal mission to recover it. Now I do still have a bounty on it, and there's some divers who are pretty excited about getting out there and searching for it. But looking back on what I've invested, 5 days, 5 hours, well, no, yeah, 6 days, 6 times out, 5 hours each, that's 30 hours, times my shop rate, plus about $1,500 in search materials between ropes and buoys and stakes and rafts and fish finding equipment, means I would have been better off in hindsight if I would have just cut my losses and built another boat. So I'm not so much angry that I lost the boat. I'm angry that I didn't just, you never know, we could have found it. But at any rate, that's where we're at.
But you do have the infrastructure now for the next loss.
Correct.
What?
So
One other thing I just wanted to mention, Put your business cards in the dry spaces.
That is tremendous, and I've had a lot of boats come through, and I actually Ed was one of them, and just a piece of paper, if found, reward, phone number, a piece of packing tape. You tape it over the top. It's completely sealed and isolated from the water, right on the top as soon as it's opened up. I think if people were to open up and see that, then most people wouldn't even know what it is. And if they see reward, they'll probably call you first before trying to figure out what it is and trying to sell it on eBay or something like that.
Even if it's Homeland Security, you get it back.
Yeah, eventually. Exactly. So that's the story. And then this all circles back to this whole conversation, which if you take a look on YouTube, there's a lot of some pretty awesome armchair experts out there saying what should have done and woulda, coulda, shouldas, and hindsights and all sorts of fun things like that. I did create a failsafe box, and we did a little bit of testing, and that failed miserably at the lake. It consisted of a waterproof box, a 1500 milliamp battery. So that piezo is probably still going off, I would imagine, under the water, and it will for many, many weeks from now, because I think the piezo only sucks like 50 milliamps or something like that. But the way that worked, it was a waterproof box with a bright flashing 5mm LED and a piezo that sounds, if you want to know what it sounds like your smoke detector. It's just a loud scream that goes off. If you watch my videos, I put it in my spa. I could hear it under 2 feet of water standing outside, dropping it in. So he couldn't find it. We dropped it. He knew where it was. We knew where it was. The diver could not locate it.
He couldn't hear it?
Could not hear it.
Did he have his hood on?
Nope.
He claimed that the fountain noise was making too much. The fountain was making too much noise, right, Bob? That's what he said.
He said he could hear the fountain. He could not hear the piezo.
Yeah.
And some people rightfully said it could have been better if I would have mounted, instead of the piezo just being in the box, if I would have mounted the piezo to the box. But I mean, that thing was streaming. We dropped it under the raft. We knew where it was within a 10-foot diameter. Like,
can I make a couple of comments here, Bob? First off, the methodology of grabbing the bearings, that really goes to Dave, because I remember it from an article he wrote.
Which he forwarded, and actually, you know what? I should post that up for people. It's a good idea.
And I know that because he was playing quartermaster the day he came up with that taking bearings thing. Second thing, how many, with this whole incident over, how many boats have really been lost over the years permanently? I bet the number is quite a few. Correct, Dave's got the number. I lost one in 1990, and that's before I met anybody, and I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, I still say, it was a loss, but it's still cheaper than flying radio-controlled airplanes.
Mm-hmm. A nice radio-controlled airplane. You could get the disposable ones for $250 and just smash them every time you go out, and you'd be ahead of the game.
But they're not scale models.
No.
So I
That's
lost
true,
one.
and I do want to put this into perspective, and this sounds all like terrible. But the bad news about the situation was it wasn't my boat; it was a customer boat. And so now, I'm in a situation where I need to replace that boat. The good news is he wants an I-400, which I'm pretty excited about. 72nd Japanese I-400. So we get to play with that. The bad news is that this is all coming out of my pocket into the second build, which really sucks. But that's, again, the way the cookie crumbles. Second thing I wanted to say, I've been doing this since 1999. And this is the first and only boat that I have ever lost and not come home with eventually. So the math is pretty good. You guys know how many boats I built. It's like hundreds, like literally hundreds. And so the math works out okay. Don't get super scared about this. If you operate your boat with a modicum of restraint and foresight, you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. I will say, Dave, one of the scariest times that I've ever run a boat was when you and I were out at, what was that, Lincoln Park or whatever it was? You and I. Yeah. I don't know. Were we drinking? Because I had that boat out like 300 feet and we were diving it out there. I don't know what we were thinking. There was quench factors out there, but they always came up, which is a testament to your fabrication skills. So at any rate, don't get weirded out by losing your submarine. You know, operate it in a manner that is safe, and yet but still fun. You know, if you don't have a little thrill every time you dive, then you're not doing it right.
So I had a Gropner shark. They move too fast. I make them too powerful. They go too fast. And it went down nose first, and it basically stuck in the mud. I found it. I jumped in, and my buddy was on shore, and he could just pulse the motor up and down.
Yeah.
And I literally found it based upon the sound of the motor and the gearbox.
Yep.
So yes, they can go anywhere you didn't expect it to go. You think it should be there, but it's not. They go someplace. The other one I really liked is somebody had a really big old submarine, and they had a compartment in it, and he had the salt tablet buoy trick.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had seen it before with the guys that have the battleships that shoot BBs. And on their battleships, they have a piece of the deck that has a flotation device in a string. So when they sink each other, part goes up to the top and they always know where it is. Has anybody done the salt tablet idea?
There's been variations of that. I've had a lot of boats come through. The one that I got upstairs, if you guys remember the runner that I brought to Groton, the big 10-foot Gatto submarine, the guy that polished all the brass tubes, you remember? He had kind of the opposite of that. And so rather than a buoy going up, he had a bunch of weights that would drop. They were like weight compartments. And so variations of this is what I wanted to talk about, was the idea of fail-safe ideas. We talked about lights, we talked about sound. Buoys is one thing. So there's different release methodologies. You could do it, electronically, but if something electronic goes wrong, you would lose the launch or release mechanism. So that may or may not be such a good idea. If it's just a loss of signal scenario, well, then it's not so bad. But if your boat loses power, you're kind of screwed. So you would want a standalone system. I've done it in the past. I actually did it with the Disney Nautilus. I made the skiff buoyant on a fishing line. And so I had a standalone timer module that you power it up and it would count down for 20 minutes. And if you don't reset it, it would pop after 20 minutes. So that's one idea. The old school way of doing it that you're referring to, and I've heard of aspirins, Tic Tacs, white glue, anything that dissolves in water, right, as a pin. I've actually heard of spaghetti, like dry pasta. You can use it as a pin, and eventually it's gonna absorb the water, soften, and then pop whatever it is that's going on. So some idea of a standalone release material that would release, a buoy or something like that. What I really, really like, and maybe I'll get your guys' opinion on this, what I really like, though, is this idea of bubbles. because if you can just go out in a boat or just swim and look for bubbles, you can find your boat because you know exactly where it is. It's exactly underneath the bubbles. When I have a video out there of the loss of the sea wolf out at Creekside Park, and it was the same thing. The water was completely like yellow. It was terrible, full of duck poop, and it was middle of winter. I think the water was like 60 degrees. And so I had to strip and go out in my underwear and retrieve that boat. That was super exciting. But I knew where it was because the cylinder overpressurized and blew bubbles out, and I could see exactly where it went down. So my question to you guys is how can we make bubbles?
The same way we had evasion devices on submarines. It would produce hydrogen gas when exposed to water, but I don't think I want hydrogen gas accumulating in a hull.
Could you put antacid tablets in? Would that be weird? Like, could you just drill a bunch of antacid tablets in your boat and just have it like bubble out? Would you
dye pack, green dye?
But does the green dye float?
No. What, to release the float?
No, we're not talking floats. I want bubbles.
Bubbles
a visual
coming up.
indication on the
Right.
A visual indication on the surface as to the location of the submarine below.
A green dye pack. The
But
green dye.
It just release and then make the water under and the bottom of the lake green.
I heard these things float up. They're used in recovery in a real world situation. SOLAS, safety of life at sea. Dave, you're a diver. Haven't you heard of dye packs?
Yeah, so-called shark repellent and ID packs. It was all horse shit because as soon as you deploy it, it floats away.
Yeah.
So they've got them. I'm just looking fluorescent dye packs, and it says it does float and it spreads over the surface of the water. They're huge. They're the size of like a baby's bib. But I guess maybe if you could extract the dye and figure out a release. I'm just trying to think something easy.
Dave?
Like, could you not?
Hey, Bob.
They have make these things like instead of a whole bunch of little antacid tablets or what you were talking about. Because my wife used to have these things. They're called bath bombs, and they're about the size of an oversized golf ball, a little bigger.
Yep.
You throw them in the bath, and the first thing they do is go, and they send up all these bubbles and stuff really dramatically. So if you released one of those, and they last about 10 minutes, you would see it. Because it's like, take all those little, whatever you're saying, Alka-Seltzer tab, take a whole bottle of Alka-Seltzer tab, compact it into a hard ball, kind of, and throw that in the water and see what happens. That's kind of what they are. They're called bath bombs.
Well, literally a bomb, because if it gets in the annular space between your cylinder and hull, you're going to breach that hull. Ain't that right, Howard?
Yeah, well, it's dramatic at least.
It would potentially create buoyancy. You know, if you have it trapped underneath your hull, it's gonna create
Right,
buoyancy.
but wouldn't you? The point was you'd have it in some kind of enclosure that only opens to the water, like some other thing dissolved, and then it opens, and then you get your bubbles.
This discussion is quickly turning into complexity warship.
Oh,
All right, hear me out.
Hey, Bob. What about one of those luggage RFID tag things? You can say your suitcase is over there if you had one of those in your boat.
The signal doesn't penetrate water. It operates in the gigahertz range. So as soon as it went an inch below,
it's GPS and it doesn't work.
And it has to be surrounded by iPhones to actually transmit the signal someplace useful. So I agree with Dave. I'm looking at a couple of lists I'm making here, and there's one side is the fail-safe items. What do you do to stop this as it's happening? And the other side is the locator or the recovery. We're switching to recovery mode from, trying to stop the event, which is what the fail-safes do. And we've kind of evolved. I've noticed it in my own, thinking that we're going to make a boat. It's going to be very, very slightly positive. And if that doesn't work, there's nothing else to bring that boat back. And I remember running one of Skip Acey's Marlins, which actually somebody on the screen bought and then sold it to Bob again. But it was very ballasted, exactly like we're talking about, performed beautifully. It bounced off the bottom of this beautiful, pristine mountain lake and scooped up a little bit of sand. Guess what? It's now no longer slightly positive, it's slightly negative. And I don't know why I had the unusual presence of mind to firewall the throttle and bring the planes up. And the thing took a while, but it came back to the surface. So I think, you know, I see different combinations here. I can see Dave is right. It's getting too complex. And how far back do we have to go in RC submarine operations where we had a happy point, where we maybe had CO2 backup? We had a couple of other things, because I mean, I know that boat pretty well, and I think it's a pretty good performer, and it would not surprise me to find out it sailed away to another part of that pond and it's sitting there somewhere. But I think simple is good, and I think we maybe want to look at how we're trying to be a little too Spartan with the fail-safes.
Bob, let's get back to how many boats you lost since you first started this. Is it really worth the effort? Is anything we're going to do with 30 plus years of RC submarine history that's going to be different? This discussion of floats and whatnot goes on time and time again. But I personally don't think it's worth the effort. If this was a systemic issue, yeah. But the complexity, like Dave said, now we're adding another complexity into something. It's a problem. Losing a $4,000 boat is an issue. But is this really worth the effort?
I know exactly what you're saying. I wouldn't poo-poo the conversation. Things are much different now than they were 20 years ago. There's more solutions out there that potentially, you know, we may not have had access to back then. I do love the idea of simplicity. KISS. Like, could we literally just throw a handful of antacid tablets in there and have a stream of tiny bubbles coming out of the submarine as you're driving it around underneath the water? And if it gets stuck or mired or sunk, you just watch for the bubbles, you know, to come up. I don't know.
Bob, there's another issue here too. And you think about how many boats sank at Cohutta versus how many of those did we get back in minutes versus, you know, this pond you're talking about. And the difference is the pond.
The difference is the pond, exactly. You could literally watch it on the bottom.
Exactly. And sometimes, I don't know, maybe we need to be a little pickier about where we run our boats. And sometimes I know that pond is probably seasonally more clear than it was this time. So if it's like you're describing and you're trying to find it in chocolate milk, that's going to be really, really hard. I don't care how skilled a diver you are, how well equipped you are, you're not going to see it.
No.
I don't know. I guess it scares me to run in ponds like that now. And the same thing with weeds. I mean, it could have hung up in a weed and just be there. Although I think you would have found it by now. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things here. I think it's a really good discussion to have. There's a lot of variables here.
There is, but you brought up a really, really good point. The first and foremost, the decision that you need to make as the skipper is whether or not the risk reward is worth it as it pertains to the quality of the water you're operating in. We call it, Ed and I call it black water. If it's anything where the submarine submerges and you can't see it, that's black water. That's why my magic spot is periscope depth. I do not go below periscope depth on any open water whatsoever. Swimming pool's different. Cohutta's different. You can see those submarines operate below the surface of the water. But in any situation where you will lose sight of your submarine below, you're dancing with the devil as soon as that periscope goes below the surface of the water. So, yeah,
hey, Bob,
you pick your battles.
Hey, Bob, like someone mentioned on there a few minutes ago, check near the fountain. What's the chance it gone near the fountain and got hung up underneath the fountain area?
I mean, I could draw diagrams. It was halfway between me and the fountain, and it was headed completely perpendicular to me, away from the fountain. So what would have needed to have happened is it would have needed to have submerged, looped around 180 degrees, and then come back in that direction. And this is Virginia. It literally takes a football field to turn under its own power. Now, if it hit something or snagged something and got deflected, that's a different conversation. But, you know, unlike, you know, if you had a little skipjack, you know, or something where you twitch your finger and all of a sudden you're 90 degrees to where you were before, this you would need to intentionally turn it around.
Hey, Bob, I think I mentioned this before. This guy I told you a couple of years ago had a very similar situation. He had a very expensive drone go into a pond, and he used divers and anything, he couldn't find it. Now, granted, this is complex and costs money, but he ended up with a somewhat large scale RC boat that was operated by GPS. And then he had the side scan, expensive sonar that you have. And he was videotaping it, and he could also watch it. And he programmed it so not a meter of that entire pond was missed. And he just sat on the shore, and the thing just robotically just went back and forth. And, you know, the battery would literally run out. That's how long it was going back and forth. He'd have to recharge. He said it took him 2 days, but towards the end of the second day, it was spotted on the video. He didn't see it right away. He had to, because he wasn't paying attention. He had to rewatch the video. There it was. But it was a robotic process. You know, he just set it up and it ran.
Yeah.
This grid path.
I could see that happening. I feel confident that I did not miss 1 square foot of territory that I searched today based on the methodology that I employed.
Yeah, but you didn't
provided my map. No, I did not search the whole pond. I completely admit that.
Well,
I
it's
think it would
always in the
burn-
last place you look.
Right.
Hey, Steve,
Yes,
where was that
exactly.
lake you said was so crystal clear? That made me interested.
Well, the one in Cohutta is pretty clear, but
No, where you scooped up sand on the bottom.
that was in the mountains of Washington State, a place called Lake Chelan. It's a gorgeous lake. It's 1,500 feet deep in places and glacier carved, filled with spring water. It's a perfect place to make beer.
That's where I miss Victoria, where I could run my boats on the boardwalk and watch them 20 feet, 30 feet below me.
Yep. It is lovely. We have to find some more lakes like that here in Texas. So
that, by the way, if you guys have seen the iconic photo of Greg Sharp sitting on a lawn chair in his diving gear, operating his remote control Alpha around him, that's Sprout Lake up on Vancouver Island.
Canadians.
You know, if I had to wait for clear water around here in Texas, I'd be running once a year at Cohutta.
Yeah.
That's just the nature. It's like you said, you got to pick your hard.
Yep.
And I'm going to say 90% of this is human error. We did something wrong. 90% of this is human error.
And bear in mind too, guys, you know, this was the maiden voyage of this particular submarine. And so I didn't know, I mean, I knew generally how RC submarines behave, but I didn't know specifically the design, characteristics of what it was going to do with all of the upgrades and modifications and all of that stuff. It was literally its first dive in my care. So it could have been a jammed dive plane. It could have been anything. So it's a different, you know, the more you own a submarine, the more you're comfortable and aware of how it performs in any given situation, provided something doesn't go wrong. But I do like a couple of things. Number one, your comfort level with the amounts of fit. You could put 18 fail-safes in there and maybe you'll get it back every time. Okay. At the end of the day, you need to determine whether it was worth your time to implement 18 fail-safes in that submarine. And we know mathematically for every system that you implement, there's an exponential increase in probability that any one of those systems will be non-functional at any given time. It's literally mathematics. It's an exponential curve, not a linear one. So for every bell and whistle you put in, there's an exponential increase in the probability that one of those will be failed at any given time. Which maybe is why you would want 18 fail-safes in there. And this is just another thing, and it didn't work in this particular case, but I am still a huge proponent of operating your submarine at positive buoyancy. Just a whisper of positive buoyancy. I've had subs come back up where I thought for sure I lost them. And after a minute, bloop, there's the sail.
That's a long minute.
That is a long minute.
I got a small point to contribute about ballast tanks in general and choosing your ballast system. One of the benefits of the older type ballast systems where you would normally use an air pump to pump out the water, an event that you open and close on the top of the ballast tank by a servo or something, is you have a gas backup. And if you have a system like that and you do lose your boat, as long as the radio is still working, even if the boat's stuck in the weeds or something, you'll get the bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
So you have something to look for. So
yep.
That could be a factor when you're choosing what kind of ballast system. I know a lot of the Virginia probably couldn't have done that because it was a pump-based system, right? So the vent was just, if you had gas in there, it would just go out the vent.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I for one am a huge proponent of gas ballast systems. I love them. In my mind, it's super realistic. I love seeing the little bubbles come out. You know, when it's ballasted properly and it's diving, and you see the little trail of bubbles coming out from behind the boat. And exactly what you said. You know, if you run into problem, the panic mode, you just hit that, and that will blow that ballast tank out in seconds. And anything that is in excess just comes out the bottom, and you've got the eruption of bubbles out on the surface.
Bob, what about a super bright LED on its own battery pack with a small timer?
That would be fine. I don't even think you need a timer. I think you just have its own power pack, a 9-volt battery that's all sealed, and you just put it in there, have it pointing upwards, you know. But again, I had that in the trial pack that I had, and I had ballasted that box that you guys saw in my video, so that even though it snapped to the cable, the weight was in the bottom and the light was shining up. So it would have went straight down to the bottom with that light blinking and shining up. But in chocolate milk, it doesn't matter. If you can't see more than 2 feet away,
You still see a little bit.
It'll help a little bit. It'll help a little bit. It can't hurt, and it would be one of the easier things to implement.
Yeah, we considered putting one in the bridge area of the sail. Just a blinking light there. It's better than nothing if you feel you need to do something.
I wonder if it would glow underwater at nighttime. See an illuminated spot somewhere.
Potentially in clear water, but again, this chocolate milk stuff, you know, I remember in the mask, you know, diving down from the surface, it gets dark quick. With all of the whatever the particulates and that kind of stuff in there, there's no way you're going to see it in 10 feet of water. That's for dang sure.
Hey,
Yeah,
Bob,
I think if
you didn't have a gas ballast system, but could you put a gas ballast safety thing, you know, separate from your system that would just then?
Someone had asked me that on YouTube, like, could you have a little canister that would blow and it would make bubbles? I'm like, well, yeah, sure, absolutely, you could. Now you just need to determine how it's triggered. You know, is it triggered by the radio on loss of signal, or is it a timer, or you know, what's the trigger? What makes it go off? You know, could you do something super simple like some sort of dissolvable plug that would dissolve, and then it would just piss bubbles for 30 minutes.
Yet another thing to forget between operations.
Whoops.
Just lost my way again.
My best fail-safe is the rig for dive checklist or pre-mission checklist.
There you go. Let's talk about that for 1 second. We did 90% of the loss of RC submarines is user error. Is anybody going to argue with that? 90%. Someone forgot to put a plug in or to tighten down some bolts, or I've done it. I forgot to put the cap in the test hose, or whatever. So if you have
during preliminaries, you let somebody interrupt you.
Yeah, exactly. That could happen too. But literally take a piece of paper, laminate it, put it in the top of your little away kit, and go through step by step. And that'll eliminate a lot of problems.
What David just mentioned is how I did lose my first and only RC sub. Dave, why don't you tell the crowd what you do when somebody walks over to you and starts flapping gums?
Fuck away.
This is show, right?
You put your tools down, forget what you're doing, and address the person directly. That's what you said once. I'm holding you to it.
He tells them get lost.
So a way of getting around this, and who's really, really good for this, and Ed can talk about this too, Matt Homer. If any of you guys had a chance to sit down with Matt at Subfest, he had a binder, and flip to the binder, pre-mission checklist, laminated sheet with a dry erase marker. Do this, check. Do this, check. Oh, someone's coming up to me? You come back to it. Where was I? Do this, check.
Matt,
That dude,
Munger.
That dude, he follows real submarine checklists and 3M maintenance and whatnot. He borrowed that from his boats.
It is not out of the realm of realism to invest 5 minutes pre-missioning your boat at the pond with checklists when you're talking about a $3,000 submarine that you spent 200 hours assembling.
Protocol.
Don't let your RC submarine voyage, and I'm talking about your career, your RC submarine career, come crashing to a halt because you skipped a step, right? So yeah, definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
On a different note, I used to use a device called Buzzer Rocks, and it was an oxygen bubbler for an aquarium. It would run for about 8 hours.
Buzzer Rocks.
But it needed an air pump, didn't it?
No, it didn't create an air pocket. It was a tablet, like a Alka-Seltzer, that sat on the bottom of the tank and would just sit there and bubble and bubble.
Buzzer Rocks bubble release from Tacker Brothers. They're $6. You think we can afford $6? We think we're all made of money?
Oh, is that
$6, 3,000 sub, $6, 3,000 sub. You're right. It's not worth the $6.
Consistently provide 100% oxygen for up to 80 hours. Buzzer Rocks.
Send us the link.
I just searched for Buzzer Rocks. You search your own link. This is on Tackle Brothers and they're sold out, so it's not even going to help you. So.
But any type of aquarium oxygen tablets, I used to use them for running bait and fish. I would throw the tablets in a 55-gallon barrel, and it would keep the fish alive. So it's got to have oxygen and creates bubbles.
I am 1,000,000% going to buy some Buzzer Rocks, and I'm going to put a little container with holes in the top in my boat, and I'm going to drop this frickin' tablet in there. I think that's a great idea. And if nothing else, it'll look super cool when you're diving to have a little trail of bubbles coming out of the top of your submarine. You could trace it from the bubbles.
Absolutely nothing wrong with scale effects.
Yeah. All right. I wonder if Amazon has them. Amazon's got everything.
I dropped a gift in the chat.
Everybody's been, oh yeah, all right. Why is it pulling up Pisos? It's so stupid. All right, never mind. Well, we'll find it. Yeah, check that out. All right. Tour. Yeah, Dave.
What's the status on the video from the last event?
Should be ready within about a week. He's working on it right now. He sent me some rough outlines. I had some creative criticisms to offer, and so he's reworking. And he didn't want cash. He wants a Fuji X100 VI digital camera. And he said anytime before Subfest West, because he wants to come out and video it for us.
When is Subfest West?
Probably the first week of November. Again, I'm waiting on, maybe some of you guys weren't here early on. So the Dakota, our contact there, has been unable to move forward with plans because the general manager has been hospitalized, who apparently came back last week and is now getting caught up. So maybe between Howard and me, we can pound her until she comes back with the final like costs and dates and all that kind of stuff. The big thing was just to make sure that there was not a competing event going on at the same time.
First weekend of November.
It's the 6th to the 9th were the dates specifically. I set out like a survey, and that one overwhelmingly came back as the #1 date that people would be able to attend with.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from the crowd? Are you waving goodbye, Bob, or are you asking for something?
I want to make 2 comments.
Okay.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. First, I was surfing the web to, and taking your advice on certain things. I'm expecting any minute now my H2D bamboo printer to show up, so I'm pretty excited about that. But in looking at all the videos I can about RC subs, I came across Dave Merriman's, and you were talking about pre-mission, which I'd never heard that term. And again, today you guys used it. But you have the nicest workshop I have ever seen in my life. It goes for miles and it's clean. I don't have a single flat surface that's not cluttered in mine.
I've been in Dave's workshop. Are you looking at the same workshop I'm working on?
That pit, the pit.
So, but I mean, it looked pretty good with the one he was talking about. And then Ed, I came across a video of you discussing how to make a shaft seal from 8 years ago, and it was awesome. So I appreciate what you guys are doing, even though I'm finding them all late. And then lastly, Bob, did you get the message about that new Nautilus TV series that's on AMC Plus?
AMC. I have not had an opportunity to see it. Renee's not interested, but she's away this weekend, so guess what I'm going to be doing?
So it's a different type of sub, but I thought of you guys. You might like it.
I watched, they had the preview on, I think it was YouTube or something like that, and I watched the first episode. I thought it was good. It got a lot of hate, but I actually thought it was pretty good. It was better than a lot of crap out there. I don't know. And it's the Nautilus.
And then lastly, do you sell a kit that has a whole bunch of connectors and O-rings and shafts and different size brass tubings? I'd spend $100 buying a little starter kit from you if you had it.
I don't. That would be a super awesome idea if I was like, you know, in the position where I had more of a storefront than what I'm able to do right now. It's an interesting learning experience for me trying to juggle full-time work and full-time work together, like 2 full-time jobs, trying to get all this done.
What do you do? What do you do now full-time?
I'm called a brand manager. So I do all of the marketing, business statistics research, vendor relationships, and all of that stuff for the company that I started back in 2000.
Okay, but you're still going to stick with us here and not take off, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Of course. The only so my day starts at 4 a.m. I work in the shop from 4 till 7, and then I work full time at my other job from 7 till 4. 4 till 7, 7 till 4. Yeah, Dave.
Okay.
For Bob Fields, if you don't have it already, get Bob's book.
I got it and I read it. So yeah, I'm in a very hungry mode to find as much about and being a former engineer, I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. So I'm not making a move until I just over research all of it.
Well, hey, Bob, what region are you in? Where do you call home?
Noblesville, Indiana.
I go
to these little sub fests every summer. We got one probably coming up in a month, and that's where I met Rick
Carmel.
Right,
Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah.
The Subgoddess.
Yeah.
Okay. You got a good group of people there to lean heavily on. They're well versed. Jim Butt and them go back 30 years. My new crick is a boat Jim Butt built. Yeah. So you got plenty of resources local. That's good.
I should probably join their club. I think they call it Indy Admirals.
Yes, you should. You should.
That would be a good start. So, but anyway, you guys are awesome. I just, I really, every 2 weeks, I sometimes wish this was every week, but that's a bit too much.
It's not. I would too, but I have to allocate some time to my family and wife. She tolerates this. Speaking of which, she's staring at me through the door, so I should probably go. It was good seeing everyone. Good talk. Good conversation. I thought we had some good ideas. I gotta try and find those buzzer tablets. They're everywhere. They're like sold out everywhere. But we'll figure something out.
I would say try to Google just the terms for oxygen release tablets, because I found something from Frank's Great Outdoors, which probably is similar.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's like the generic kind, right? Okay. Sounds good. I'm going to let all of y'all go. Have a good rest of your weekends, and catch you next time.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.